We thought we knew the moon. For decades, that assumption went completely unchallenged. 6 successful landings, hundreds of kilograms of rock samples, and detailed orbital maps gave us confidence we had figured it out. Then, April 2026 arrived, and 4 astronauts saw something that shattered that comfortable certainty in a matter of hours. Their names are Reid Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. They are the crew of Artemis II, the first mission to carry a woman, a black astronaut, and a non-American beyond Earth's orbit. They launched from Kennedy Space Center on April 1, 2026, riding the most powerful rocket NASA has ever assembled. The Space Launch System stands over 320 feet tall and produces more than 8.8 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. A single engine burn lasting less than 5 minutes pulled them free of Earth's gravity and sent them toward the moon with no turning back. The path they followed is known as a free return trajectory, designed so that even total engine failure would still bring them safely home. The moon's own gravity would sling them around and send them falling back toward Earth on its own. Apollo 13 used the same kind of path in 1970 after an explosion crippled the spacecraft. The fact that this is considered the safest option tells you everything about how dangerous deep space travel still is. As they curved around the far side at roughly 7,500 kilometers above the surface, the moon itself blocked every radio signal between them and Earth. No voice from Houston, no telemetry data, no emergency commands, nothing at all. For 40 straight minutes, they were completely cut off from every human being alive. They were the most isolated people who have ever existed, and beneath them stretched the oldest, most battered landscape in the entire solar system, the moon's hidden face. Before we talk about what they saw, we need to understand exactly why the far side is so different from the side we see every night. The moon we know, the face that rises and sets with the seasons, is covered in vast dark plains called maria. These are ancient lava flows that flooded enormous craters billions of years ago and cooled into flat, dark basalt oceans. Roughly 31% of the near side is covered in this volcanic rock. It gives the moon its familiar appearance, the shapes we have drawn and photographed and written about for all of recorded history. The far side has almost none of it, less than 1%. Instead of smooth plains, the far side is a relentless wall of craters stacked on top of craters, stacked on top of even older craters. It looks like something hammered it without stopping for 4 billion years. The crust on the far side is also roughly 50 kilometers thicker than on the near side. No single theory fully explains why that difference exists. The leading explanation involves a catastrophic impact near the moon's south pole, so violent that it sent a wave of heat rippling through the entire interior. That wave pushed rare Earth elements and radioactive materials toward the near side, changing the chemistry of the two hemispheres permanently. That impact left behind the largest preserved crater in the entire solar system, the South Pole-Aitken basin. Place it over a map of the United States and it would swallow everything from Texas to Virginia. It stretches roughly 2,500 kilometers across and plunges up to 13 kilometers deep. The mountains along its rim reach summit elevations of around 8,500 meters, comparable to the tallest peaks on Earth. But the most extraordinary thing about this basin is not its size. It is what is hiding beneath its floor. In 2019, a research team combined gravity data from NASA's Grail mission with surface measurements from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. What they found was a massive anomaly sitting at least 300 kilometers below the basin floor. A blob of extraordinarily dense material weighing an estimated 2.18 quintillion kilograms. Imagine burying a pile of metal 5 times larger than the big island of Hawaii. Deep underground, the gravitational effect would look exactly like this. This buried mass is heavy enough to pull the basin floor downward by more than half a mile. It warps the local gravity field in ways that still puzzle researchers. The most accepted explanation is that this is the metallic core of the asteroid that punched the hole in the first place, still lodged in the moon's mantle after 4 billion years. Like a bullet fragment, the body was never able to push out. The Artemis II crew became the first human beings to see the eastern edge of this basin with their own eyes, not through a robotic camera or processed satellite data, but directly through the windows of their spacecraft. Apollo astronauts never had this view. Their flight paths did not carry them over the right portions of the far side, and the solar angles during their missions were not aligned correctly to reveal the terrain. Artemis II's trajectory was designed differently, sweeping the spacecraft at an angle that placed roughly 21% of the far side in direct sunlight from the crew's perspective. enough to reveal features no human had ever witnessed firsthand. One of the mission's priority science targets was the Oriental Basin, a nearly 600-kilometer-wide impact scar straddling the boundary between the near and far sides. It is 3.8 billion years old, and from orbit resembles a bullseye pressed into the Moon's surface. Christina Koch noted that the smaller, more recent craters were strikingly bright compared to the ancient terrain surrounding them. She compared their appearance to tiny pinprick holes in a lampshade, glowing white against dull grey material. Victor Glover became absorbed by the Terminator, the shifting line between the sunlit and shadowed halves of the Moon. Along that boundary, craters transform completely. Sunlight strikes their rims at extreme low angles, casting shadows so deep they appear to punch straight through to the Moon's core. Glover radioed down that the Terminator looked full of magic, that islands of light seemed surrounded by black holes you could fall through to the center of the Moon. The crew also observed color variations across the petal surface that no orbiter camera had fully captured. Subtle browns, greens, and faint blue tints appeared in regions that processed satellite images had shown as uniform gray. These color differences carry real scientific value. They reveal mineral composition and the relative age of surface features, information that could reshape our understanding of how different parts of the Moon formed and evolved. Before reaching the far side, the crew observed one of the near side's most puzzling features, Reiner Gamma. It is a bright swirling pattern sprawled across the Moon's surface, as if someone dragged a white paintbrush across dark rock. It has no elevation. It is not a crater. It is not a volcanic deposit. It is a flat optical marking. What makes it strange is that it sits directly on top of a localized magnetic anomaly buried in the crust beneath it. The Moon has no global magnetic field. It lost that billions of years ago. But scattered patches of magnetized rock remain in the crust, like ghosts of something that used to be there. Reiner Gamma sits on one of those patches. Whether the magnetism is shielding the surface from solar wind weathering, or whether something else entirely is creating that bright swirl, remains an open question. As Orion dipped behind the Moon during the flyby, something happened that no human being had witnessed from this distance or this angle: a total solar eclipse from lunar orbit. The sun slid behind the Moon's disk and disappeared. For nearly 54 minutes, totality lasted far longer than any eclipse visible from Earth's surface. The sun's outer atmosphere, the corona, flared outward in a glowing halo around the entire lunar disk. Glover described it as bright enough to ring the Moon completely. Hansen reported that the sun was illuminating the entire perimeter of the Moon during totality, highlighting ridges and peaks along the lunar limb, silhouetted against the burning white light of the corona. During this eclipse, both Hansen and Wiseman observed something unexpected: brief flashes of light on the Moon's surface, momentary bursts that appeared and disappeared before they could be confirmed. Observers on Earth have reported similar events for centuries, called transient lunar phenomena. Some are meteorite strikes, some may be electrostatic dust activity, some may be gases escaping from the interior. No one has ever been certain. The Artemis II crew may have witnessed at least one of these events in real time from lunar orbit, the first human beings ever positioned to do so. The Moon has no atmosphere and no significant magnetic field to speak of. Every particle of solar wind, every micrometeorite, every burst of galactic cosmic radiation strikes the far side with nothing standing in the way. This brings us to the part of this story that doesn't get enough attention: what deep space does to the human body. The single greatest obstacle to human exploration beyond Earth's magnetic shield is not distance, it is not fuel, it is radiation. Two sources are particularly dangerous: solar particle events, eruptions from the sun that can push radiation exposure to near-lethal levels within hours, and galactic cosmic rays, particles accelerated by distant supernova explosions, traveling at nearly the speed of light, capable of penetrating almost any shielding we can build. Apollo astronauts orbiting the Moon reported seeing streaks of light behind their closed eyelids during missions, high-energy particles punching directly through their retinas. Some developed cataracts at unusually elevated rates in later years. Artemis II is flying during solar maximum, the peak of the Sun's 11-year activity cycle, when the risk of severe solar storms is at its highest. The Orion capsule provides more shielding than any Apollo vehicle ever did. But galactic cosmic rays move too fast and carry too much energy for physical shielding alone to stop them. Aboard Artemis II is the Avatar payload, bone marrow cells derived from the crew's own blood samples. Scientists will study how those cells respond to the deep space radiation environment after the mission ends. That biological data is worth more to the future of human spaceflight than any photograph the crew could take. Now here is something that challenges the idea that the Moon is a dead world. In 2023, researchers analyzing orbital data discovered a thermal anomaly buried beneath the far side surface, a region roughly 50 kilometers wide, registering about 10 degrees Celsius warmer than everything surrounding it. The probable source is a massive buried block of granite. On Earth, granite is common. On the Moon, it is almost unheard of because granite requires liquid water and tectonic activity to form, neither of which the Moon is supposed to have. Researchers believe this granite may be the remnant core of a volcano that went dormant approximately 3.5 billion years ago. The surrounding rock has long since cooled, but the buried mass is still slowly radiating its residual heat. This finding raises a question nobody expected to be asking. How many other places beneath the lunar surface are still warm? Then there are the lava tubes. Radar imaging and high-resolution orbital photography suggest the Moon contains underground tunnel networks formed by ancient lava flows. Entrance pits are visible from orbit, potentially opening into caverns large enough to shelter entire structures. Their true dimensions, internal conditions, and structural stability remain completely unknown. Whether they contain trapped gases, preserved volcanic deposits, or temperature environments dramatically different from the surface is still entirely speculative. Future Artemis missions may eventually explore them. For now, they remain sealed. When Orion cleared the far side and Earth reappeared in the crew's windows, mission control in Houston erupted. The crew had watched Earth set behind the lunar horizon, a slow disappearance of a pale blue crescent sinking behind gray cratered rock. An Earth set, the mirror image of the famous Earthrise photograph captured by Apollo 8 astronaut Bill Anders in 1968. In that image, Earth was rising. In this one, it was leaving. Koch described the moment with a clarity that cut through everything else. She said that seeing Earth from that perspective makes you realize how much we all share, that the planet provides everything, and that you cannot fully understand that until you have seen it from the other side. The crew named two craters during the flyby. One they called Integrity, the nickname their team had given to the Orion spacecraft. The other they called Carol, after Reid Wiseman's late wife, Carol Taylor Wiseman, who passed away in 2020. Carol Crater sits on the boundary between the near and far sides, a bright spot that can be found from Earth if you know exactly where to look. The mission set the record for the farthest distance any human has ever traveled from Earth, an estimated 406,000 kilometers. Orion passed its closest approach to the Moon at roughly 98,000 kilometers per hour relative to Earth. The full observation period lasted 7 hours. Thousands of photographs were taken, most of them not yet transmitted back due to bandwidth limitations. The complete image archive will not be available until after splashdown. Those images are going to matter to science for years. China's Change for mission made the first soft landing on the far side in January 2019. Inside Von Karaman crater at the floor of the South Pole-Aitken basin, communication required a dedicated relay. Satellite parked in a halo orbit beyond the Moon. In 2024, China's Change 6 mission went further, collecting material from the far side and returning it to Earth for laboratory analysis. The first time any samples from the Moon's hidden hemisphere had ever been studied directly. Researchers are still working through those findings. The far side also holds a value that has nothing to do with geology. It is permanently shielded from every radio signal generated by human civilization. Every cell tower, every broadcast transmission, every wireless device on Earth, all of it blocked by 3,400 kilometers of solid rock. Radio telescopes placed on the far side could listen to frequencies below 30 megahertz that Earth's own ionosphere blocks completely, opening a window into the early universe that has never been available before. Multiple space agencies have proposed building observatories there for exactly this reason. We spent centuries studying one face of the Moon and calling it understood. We landed 6 times, always on the near side, always at carefully selected sites, and built a model of the entire Moon from a local dataset. That is like landing a spacecraft in the Sahara Desert and declaring the entire planet Earth is made of sand. The far side is where the real story lives. A landscape so ancient it preserves impact records, the near side buried under lava billions of years ago. A basin large enough to reshape the Moon's internal structure, a buried metallic mass that bends the local gravity field. an unexplained heat source, sealed lava tubes, a crust so thick and so chemically different that it challenges the fundamental models of how moons form and cool. Apollo's seismometers detected moonquakes, shallow tremors, suggesting something is still moving inside a world we told ourselves was geologically dead. Victor Glover said it simply after Orion cleared the far side and Earth came back into view. He said the moon is not just a poster in the sky that goes by. It is a real place. He is right. And the more we learn about it, the less comfortable that fact becomes. Because the far side is not just different from what we expected. It is different in ways that keep forcing us to rewrite the story, the granite that should not exist, the mass that does not match any model, the asymmetry no single theory fully explains, the magnetic echoes left in rock that lost its field billions of years ago. Every answer the far side gives us opens 3 more questions, and the questions keep getting harder. The Artemis II crew is on their way home now, falling back toward Earth at thousands of miles per hour. When they splash down, they will carry with them the first direct human observations of the moon's hidden face in over half a century, not filtered through robotic cameras or processed from orbital data, seen with human eyes, through the windows of a spacecraft, in real time. The moon is not what we thought it was, and we have barely begun to find out what it actually is. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.